All right. Here's the latest code that I've got for the API portal thing. I ended up making a few of the changes that we talked about last time we met. I moved over the module to this page and wrote unit tests for everything. So everything is pretty much unit tested out at this point on. So now when I code, I'll be coding, I'll be writing the unit test first and then coding instead of coding everything and then writing a unit test for it afterwards. But yeah, so everything is unit tested out. If anybody goes through and changes anything, the unit test will break, which is the point of it. But yeah, let's go take a look here. So here we can see I've got on this right section here, this is the built-in unit tester, which is using Enzyme and Jest, which are for React.js, and it's the Facebook, Jest is Facebook's unit testing, and Enzyme is React's unit testing method for you to mount and dismount different components, to test components individually. And here you see we got navbar test, user matching fields test, add products test, matching, drop zone, FL matching fields, generate random string, and all these bad boys. There's 16 test suites and 141 tests total. And so here's an example. We'll just run all the tests. It's running, and boom, everything passed. You have options here to run individual tests. So like, let's see, filter file name. So we'll do user matching. So this will run only the user matching field tests, and here you can see that user matching fields shallow unit test should render without exploding, should render correctly on init, should set component to draggable, etc., etc. And each test has its set of individual test cases, unit tests. And so if anything changes, if you go in there or another developer goes in there in the future and makes a change, a breaking change, we'll see it here, and so that way we'll know if there's an issue. So let's take a look at something here. Here's the background video player, which if we come here to the home page, this background video player is a component, and right now it's got a static video URL, and it's just rendering video player, and then in the back end there's a CSS which is making it full screen and in the background, and so this is in charge of the background video player. Here's the unit test for that, and so here you can see that this is I'm describing the test case that we're testing the background video player component, and this is going to be a shallow unit test, meaning it's only rendering the background video player. If background video player were to render or call other components, it doesn't render children, it only renders itself, so make the unit test faster. And so that's what the shallow unit test is. And then here are the individual test cases. So for instance, it should render without exploding, meaning when I mount this, it should render and there should be no issues. Should set state on init. So when this component loads in, I'm setting the state here, and this video URL is equal to this statically loaded video URL. So here you can see that the video URL is equal to MP4. But let's say, for instance, Johnny goes in there and makes a change to make it MP3. If we save that, that breaks everything. So if we run these tests again, we're going to have a fail. Expected value to be equal MP4, but value is actual MP3. So you can see the value of these unit tests here. It really helps when working with a team. So that way, if you start messing with something, or somebody else, another dev starts messing with something and breaks, we can see the break as it happens. And yeah, so everything is tested out. Here we've got let's go down to the CSV upload. So here's the CSV upload. This is the page that this component is in charge of this drop zone. So we go to dashboard. So this drop zone here, where you drop the file in and then submit, or there's an error, or all of this is handled here. Here we're setting the state, we're waiting for the component to mount, and then we have all these different methods available on the component, and then down here we're rendering out some HTML based off of conditions of whether a person has dropped something or not. And if we look at the CSV upload tests, you can see here that we have CSV upload shallow unit test, just like before. We're setting a couple global variables, a wrapper, instance, and state, and then we're running this before each, which this runs before every unit test, so that way we can render the component, put some fake data in it, run a test against that fake data, And then as soon as that test is done, we delete that component and render a new component, so every test gets its fresh component. So here again, we're testing to make sure that it renders correctly without exploding. It should init the state correctly. So here we've got state.widget.state to equal home. If we look at the, where'd it go? CSV upload. So widget state should be equal to home. If I change this to homies, that's going to break the unit test because it's expecting it to equal home. Yeah, so here, expected value to equal home, received homies. And so breaks home. Let's fix that again. And so here we're testing to make sure that the component initializes correctly with the proper fields. Then we're testing, let's see, should init correctly, should render correctly. We're making sure that it's rendering onto the browser correctly. We're using a headless browser, React DOM, which is basically a JavaScript comparisons to what would be in a browser. So this is basically rendering a fake object that would be in the browser and testing against that. And it would be the same as if it were in the actual browser, but we're not actually spinning up a browser, and it makes these tests faster. That's why Jest is so popular. CSV set widget state method unit test. So if we look at the set widget state, this method sets the state. And so here we're testing all the possible use cases to that method, which is just one because it just sets the state. But then here, get widget state method unit test. It should run home if state is set to home. And so this has two different use cases and two different possible things that it can do. So we're testing against every single aspect of every single function. So get drop zone boxes is a method. Get drop zone boxes. So here this method checks to see if anybody's dropped something into the dropping field here. Has a user drop something? If they have, render this. If they haven't, render that. So that's, everything's pretty much tested out. If we change anything in here, so if we change this to 1, we're expecting 1 field instead of 2, it's going to break. Expected, so like here for instance, it's expecting there to have been a drop zone box, but really we have the drop CSV file here, which means that there is nothing here. So sorry, I got a message. But yeah, the unit tests are all working. Let me fix that back to what it was. Unit tests are all working out for everything that we've got so far. Add product list, manual order entry, everything. All right, let's go up to the top. So we got background video, and then we've got the test for it, and then the styles for it. And then we've got drop zone box, we've got the drop zone test, and then the styles for drop zone test. And everything is organized into their nice little folder structure. We have FL matching fields and then FL matching fields tests. And here you can see there's a ton of use cases and tests for everything on it. Matching and then matching tests. So we're testing everything. Matching fields, matching field test, and so yeah, everything is tested out. I guess from here on, the next thing I need to do is get with you about the I have to finish styling the pages up because they're still a little ugly, but the functionality is all working. After I style this, the last thing that I need to do is either get the rest of the pages and continue working on those, and start working on the back end, which I have the code for that. I'm pretty sure it's Fleshlight CSV. Boom. Yeah, here it is. So I've got the controllers, and so I have all the PHP here that I wrote previously that handles uploading and extracting the data from the CSV file. So we just need to get with each other and figure out how we're going to handle that. But yeah, this is what I got. Thank you.